Okay. Good evening, everybody. It's Friday, February 9th, and we're here for my second live video stream. The topic being horror subgenres tonight. So we'll give it a few minutes here and allow some people to join here before I get too far down the road with it. Got the old Twilight Zone shirt on here. Best show of all time, of course. Got to get my horror subgenre notes out here because one thing I didn't realize there's a lot of horror subgenres. It can really go as deep as like 40 if you want to. There's subgenres within subgenres if you want to get into them. So, but yeah, I wrote down a bunch of them here so that I don't really forget or exclude any of them. My volume should be working tonight on like my first live streaming video because I actually have a microphone now that I purchased. Nothing fancy, but it gets the job done. So I still have to get what do you call it? A screen recorder. I'm still looking into that and doing my research on that yet. So we'll see. Oh, good. William says everything seems great. All right, good. So it's working this time. So we don't have all the hassles that we had I think it was 3 weeks ago when I tried to do this for the first time. So I'll give it a couple more minutes here, see if anybody else joins the live stream before I start getting into the horror subgenres. So give it just a couple more minutes here. Okay, about one more minute. I'll say, and then I'll get started with the subgenres of horror that most notably for me anyway. Obviously, there's a lot of them. Okie dokie. Let's get into this thing. So we could start with our favorite horror subgenre. Um, I have a few that I like a top three, but my favorite if you followed my channel, you probably know it's horror anthologies. That's my go-to. In fact, I just recently rewatched all the Amicus anthology movies from the 70s, 60s, and 70s, and man, I love those. They're so good. So yeah, horror anthologies, that's where my bread is really buttered from a horror standpoint. I have so many in my collection that I have yet to watch yet. Next month I'll actually be doing a series of horror anthologies. So that tops the list for me, horror anthologies. And then I would say it's so hard because there's not really, I mean, there's a couple genres I don't really care for, subgenres, but I probably have to go with the ghosts in the haunted house, even though I know some people think they're a little bit overdone. Um, the haunted house, it always works for me because of the setting. Um, there's just so many iconic, yeah, slashers. That's my number three, actually. You beat me to it. I would say anthologies, and then like more haunted house slash ghost things like The Others and The Changeling. Um, my number two, and then I would say slashers, especially 80s slashers, would probably be my number three. I've kind of come around on slashers. Not that I ever hated them or anything, but they're just there's a lot of them that seem to be kind of the same thing. But I enjoy the tropes of them. I definitely enjoy, you know, all the tropes. It's definitely the most tropey subgenre, I would say, of horror. I don't think there's any question about that. Um, yeah, 70s are great too, for sure. Yeah, but 80s are definitely the heyday of slasher movies. I would say there were some good ones before that, and there's been a few good ones after that. But that decade, especially from 1980 to like 83, I would say the first 3 or 4 years of the 80s had the best slashers, and there were other ones throughout the decade as well. But yeah, those are my three favorites. As far as a subgenre that I think is the most overdone or the most played out, I probably have to go with possession movies, frankly. Now I'm a big fan of the original Exorcist, and I think there's some other pretty good possession movies as well. But it just seems like there's at least 3 or 4 that are released every year, and they're you talk about a subgenre that's predictable and just overplayed so much. I don't know what it is, but the possession movies, especially I'm thinking of more like the religious exorcism possession kind of movies. Um, to me, I think that's the most overplayed. Not just my opinion. I know there's a lot of people that enjoy them. I enjoy them. Like I said, the original Exorcist, Exorcist 3, even the Exorcism of Emily Rose, I can watch and enjoy. It's just that a lot of them that have come out lately, they're all kind of the same. You can pretty much, without seeing them, you could pretty much, write it out how it's going to go. So, um, yeah, that would probably be my most overplayed. As far as my least favorites subgenres of horror, I would say I would say exploitation is probably one that I don't really go to. Yeah, Exorcist 2 is the best. Yeah. Not if you've actually seen it. Um, granted, I've only watched it once, but I don't necessarily think that's one of those movies that improves with a second and a third time watch there. Just a hunch that I have. But yeah, exploitation, I would say, is definitely one that I don't gravitate towards. I'm not a fan of like rape revenge kind of movies. Um, I think that's really about it, though, as far as subgenres that I absolutely don't like or that aren't really my wheelhouse. I like my supernatural or gothic horror, nature kind of horror like Jaws and Nature Gone Amok. I enjoy a lot of those, even though there's a lot of those movies as well. I feel like there's some really good ones when nature goes wild, like Alligator, and obviously the original Jaws. And so, yeah, I think it's probably just exploitation, and mostly sexual exploitation. I would say that I'm not really a huge fan of from a horror subgenre standpoint. Um, as far as movies or subgenres that are underdone that I'd like to see more of, I think I'm probably going to go with. That's tough, actually. I have a couple here. I don't know if you'd call it like an adventure horror. That's kind of the term that I wrote down. But basically, a movie like The Descent comes to mind. Just kind of out in the mountains, out in the wild, out in having isolation and having I just keep thinking of The Descent, but I know there's other ones as well, like um adventure horror. That's what I'm calling it. So I'm not sure what the other term would be for it, but I should mention too that I do enjoy psychological horror. That would be probably right there with slashers for my third favorite, 3A, 3B. There's a lot of good psychological horror movies. In fact, I would say the last 20 years or so, as much as I kind of shit on the 2000s to a certain extent, I think some of the best psychological horror movies have probably come out in the last 20 years. And then, of course, the greatest one of all is The Shining from 1980. Just that isolation horror really does it for me. I always really enjoy that. Nope, I haven't seen 1981's Possession. It's on my list, though. It's definitely on my list, and I've got so many movies to watch here. So, but that's definitely one I've heard a lot about. So I definitely want to get that watched here shortly. Oh yeah, I wrote down nature horror and also creature features, which are kind of the same thing as far as nature horror goes. Just trying to think here, what else? I would say there's some horror subgenres that are hit or miss for me. Um, ho- um, Found footage would be at the top of that list because there's some found footage horror movies that I really like Hell House LLC and As Above, So Below, and of course the Blair Witch Project. And then there's other ones that I really don't like, and they kind of make me sick, like the original VHS. And there's some other ones that I've seen, lesser known ones as well. But I'll always give them a chance. I mean, I'm at least to that point with found footage, but it is kind of a hit or miss one with me. And then also, I would say the whole splatter, gore, torture porn subgenre of horror is probably a hit or miss with me. Obviously, you have ones like Saw and Final Destination that I really like, as I have those franchises. But August Underground is too far. Yeah, I haven't seen that one, but I've heard that it's pretty rough stuff there. So but yeah, I don't know. Gore, torture porn, splatter, I kind of put them all in the same. They're hit or miss. There's definitely some good ones, and I don't shy away from gore necessarily, but I also don't necessarily. It's not one of my favorite subgenres, I wouldn't say. I also think the zombie genre is played out a little bit too much, even though I do like some zombie movies. I actually find this is actually where I find horror comedies to be pretty good when as they relate to zombies, like Zombieland and Shaun of the Dead. I like those. And I like the George Romero zombie movies, but man, it seems like there's hundreds of zombie movies out there, and they're all kind of the same for the most part. But I'm not going to poo-poo zombie movies. I know there's a lot of people that really like them. And then, of course, the monster genre, which takes us back to the 30s. And the Universal monsters comes to mind: Frankenstein, the Invisible Man, Dracula, Creature from the Black Lagoon, which I really like. So So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on my subgenres of horror. If you guys, who's ever in the chat on the live stream here, if you want to go ahead and put down your favorite subgenres. I know William already mentioned slashers for him, trashy slashers. If you have any least favorites or ones that you steer away from, that would be cool to hear about. Yeah, I think I ran through all of what I wanted to run through as far as Home Invasion's another one. There's some really good home invasion movies. I think The Strangers is creepy, but I think the best one is You're Next. I think that's the best home invasion because it's just so clever and so well done. Yeah, horror comedy, getting back to that, that's a hit or miss one for me too. Like I said, I tend to like the zombie comedies more than just the general horror comedy. There's some good ones out there, but I don't know. A lot of times it doesn't feel like they get the right balance between comedy and horror in a lot of them, and that's kind of my problem with it. It's it tends to be too comedic a lot of times and not enough horror is what I find. So musical horror, yeah. I don't Are there a lot of musical horror movies out there? The only one I can think of that I actually like is a Christmas one called oh, what's it called now? Oh, Anna and the Apocalypse. And that's actually a zomcom, like a Christmas zomcom that happens to be kind of a musical too. That's one movie that has like 5 or 6 different subgenres, you could say. I hated it. Yeah, it's definitely a polarizing movie. There's a lot of people that really like it, and there's a lot of people that doesn't work for it. So yeah, if you're not a musical person, then you're definitely not going to like Anna and the Apocalypse. But I enjoyed more of like the gore and the zombie aspect of it. And I don't know. But I don't know. There's how many other or like horror musicals there are. I'm sure there are some. I haven't. That's the only one I've seen though. But that's an interesting one. That's a subgenre I didn't really think of or write down. So, like I said, there's so many horror subgenres. You could go as many as 40 if you wanted to, from what I've seen in my research. So, of course, I like my sci-fi horror as well. My alien sci-fi kind of horror. Um, Action horror is pretty good, like the Blade trilogy. I really like. Um, Trying to think, there's a lot of other ones. I would say Aliens is kind of one of the best sequels of all time. Is kind of an action horror movie. Um, and then, of course, the original Alien is probably one of the greatest sci-fi. Well, not the greatest sci-fi horror movie. We all know what that is. I hope if you've been following my channel, that's John Carpenter's The Thing. But the original Alien, yeah, The Thing is one of the best. I think it's the best for me. But there's a lot of good ones. The original Alien from 1979 is really, really good. But John Carpenter's The Thing just got everything that I want, and not only a sci-fi horror movie, but a movie period. From the performances to the special effects to the score to the paranoia, just everything about it. It's damn near a perfect movie, and I'm a little hard pressed to say that about any movie, but I absolutely love that movie to pieces. And then, of course, we have holiday horror as well. That's another horror genre out there, which I've tried to visit around Halloween and Christmas on my channel more than anything. Of course, there's a lot of Halloween kind of horror movies. I mean, any horror movie can be watched at Halloween, but specifically ones like Trick or Treat and John Carpenter's Halloween, obviously being two of the most classic ones. And it seems like recently there's a lot more Christmas horror as well. I just saw the 13 Slaves of Christmas that I reviewed on my channel this last December. I really enjoyed that. I'm definitely interested in checking that out again when we come around to Christmas again. So April Fool's Day is one that's coming up here in April. And of course, I might actually watch My Bloody Valentine, the original one, here after this live stream tonight yet, because we're only a few days from Valentine's Day. I have watched and reviewed it on my channel. However, I have the Scream Factory edition, and I watched a theatrical version, so I'm due to watch the uncut director's version here. Yeah, 13 Slaves is a fairly new movie. I only got it because I went to a horror convention last year, and ran into the guys that were part of the studio that produced it. And yeah, it's definitely Halloween year round. But yeah, I would definitely check out 13 Slaves of Christmas if you like horror anthologies, you like Christmas themed horror. They do a really good job in all 13 short stories in there of having the Christmas atmosphere. In fact, I think I was hard pressed to find one that I really hated. There's some that work better than others, and I think I said that in my review. But it's really solid. When you see an anthology that's got 10 or 13 different stories, you're kind of like, that might be a few too many. A lot of times it kind of takes away, but they actually pulled it off with that movie, I thought. So pretty good connecting tissue, framing story in it, and which is always big for me. Um, so yeah, 13 Slaves of Christmas is one. Actually, it's 13 Slaves of Xmas. That's the title of it. So but yeah, that's like holiday horror movies. I think I've touched on all of them that I wrote down here. Religious horror kind of goes into possession. That's the one that's I think is a little bit overplayed. Oh yeah, definitely got to get a beer for sure. I've been having some stomach issues. Otherwise, I'd have a beer too, but I got to stick with water tonight. I got to try to keep everything down here. Um, Zombie virus, monster home invasion, action. For the most part, I just love horror, though. It's like I said, other than exploitation and especially like the rape revenge kind of movies, there isn't really any horror that I completely steer away from. Um, I mean, I'm probably not going to go out of my way to go watch the next Possession movie that comes out, the next Exorcism movie, just because that's so played out now. But I am going to go see, which I'm already contradicting myself because I am going to go see the first Omen here in April, early April when it comes out. But that's because I just reviewed the Omen series, the 5 existing movies already, and I want to get that new one in there, which is actually a prequel to the original. So I'm interested to see what they do with that um, coming out here. I believe it's April 3rd that the first Omen comes out. So that's the only horror movie on my radar right now that obviously I'll go see Saw 11 when that comes out later this year, although I'm a little bit nervous about that because Saw X was so good, such a surprise for the franchise that I'm worried that they might try to. It's just hard to imagine Saw 11 is going to be as good, but you never know. So I'll be seeing that one, and of course, Terrifier 3. I'm definitely will be checking that one out. So yeah, it's just well, I haven't mentioned gothic horror yet or folk horror. Now, folk horror, obviously, the movie that comes to mind there would be The Wicker Man, which I really enjoy. The original from 1973, not the Nicolas Cage version. Midsommar as well, which I have seen. Um, but as far as gothic horror, that's your Bram Stoker's Dracula. That's your uh, what's the one that just came out not too long ago? Jordan Peele's Get Out. Um, oh, why can't I think of the name of what's on the tip of my tongue now? It has well, this is going to bug me when it comes to gothic horror. It just came out like 3 or 4 or 5, well, maybe it's more than that years ago. I can't exactly remember. It's got Loki in it from the Marvel. Um, oh my goodness, Crimson Peak. There we go. All of a sudden, it just came to me. Crimson Peak. Those are your gothic horrors. Oh, and Sleepy Hollow with Johnny Depp from the late '90s as well, which is one that I really like. My wife actually likes that one too. We watch it around Halloween every year. Great atmosphere in that one. So, I think time period horror is always interesting and different. So I'm definitely up for that. Also, The Witch from 2015. I enjoyed quite a bit. I know that's another movie that's kind of hit or miss with people, just like a lot of these sort of modern. Um, they call it. I hate the term, but they call it uh, alter. No, not that's what I call it. Alternate horror. Um, my God, my brain's not working tonight. Elevated horror, which I hate that fucking term, but nothing elevated about it. It's just different. But Ravenous, yep, I haven't seen that one yet either. Although I do think I do have that in my collection. I did pick it up at some point, maybe at a horror convention. So that's on the list as well. It's a long list. I could probably write it. I could probably write the list of movies I need to watch on like three rolls of toilet paper, frankly. Not exactly gothic, but a period piece. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool though. Like I said, I think period pieces, horrors are very interesting, and I really need to watch more of that. Frankly, I haven't watched a whole lot of them, um, but they can be good for sure. Trying to think of any other folk horror. The blood on Satan's claw, the Wicker Man. The Witch is actually folk horror. That makes sense from 2015. That's the one I missed. And Midsommar, which Midsommar is not my flavor of vodka, as I said in my review. It's okay. It's fine. It's really well made. I'll say that about it. But, do I think it's the scariest horror movie in the last 10 years? No, I do not. I mean, I still have to watch, what's the other one that everybody talks about with Hereditary? I haven't watched that. Oh, that's on my list too. That's in my collection. I know that's not a gothic or folk horror, but I always think of Midsommar and Hereditary because those two always seem to be like you either love it or you hate it, or it seems like they're the most polarizing ones out there. So, but yeah, Ravenous is definitely on my list, so I'll be checking that out for sure. Oh yeah, and like I said, I'll probably be watching My Bloody Valentine as part of the holiday horror. I'll probably be watching that tonight, actually. Hereditary's on your stand to watch tonight. Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, I've really got to get on that. I've owned it for a couple of years now, but I just haven't been able to find the right series to throw it in with yet. But it's definitely I definitely want to see how I react to it, and I want to watch it sooner rather than later too, because the longer you wait on something like that, I try not to let my expectations get too high when it comes to horror movies. I really didn't with Midsommar. I mean, it'd been a couple years since people were talking about that, and I watched it. And I didn't have high expectations going into it, and so hopefully with Hereditary it'll be the same way. But it's funny because some of these so-called elevated horror, as they call it, I actually enjoyed. Like I have to watch The Babadook again. I only saw that once, and that's another one that's very polarizing. I kind of liked it, but I want to give that one needs a second rewatch for sure from me to really see where how it falls for me. I liked Last Night in Soho. I liked what's another recent one and that sort of elevated horror. Oh, one that I need to rewatch again too, which I didn't. This one the expectations probably did get a little bit too high for me. And I can't think of the name of this one either. What's the one where the? Oh man, it'll come to me in a minute here. Well, maybe it won't. No, not Us. That's on my list too, though. I have the 3 Jordan Peele movies. I have Nope, I have Us, and I haven't even seen Get Out, believe it or not. Nope, not yet. Not yet. No, it's the one where like the creature, the thing is passed through sex, basically. Why can't I? It Follows. That's what it is. It Follows. I thought it was good, but I wasn't quite as high on it as other people. But again, I need to rewatch that one too. So some of like the so-called, I'm going to call it alternative horror because I hate the other term. Some of it some of it is good, like The Witch and Last Night in Soho, and some of it is kind of a miss for me. I think that's probably how it is in general for most people, from what I've read and seen other reviewers on anyway. So we'll see how these other ones play out. But yeah, I know Get Out is talked about like the best one of the best horror movies in recent history, and I definitely want to watch that soon. Like I said, I have so many, but body horror. we haven't talked about body horror yet. Of course, one of my favorite body horror movies is The Thing. Of course, John Carpenter's The Thing, which also falls into body horror. But if I'm just going purely body horror without the other aspects that The Thing has, it's probably The Fly from 1986 with Jeff Goldblum, the David Cronenberg movie. From Beyond, I haven't seen yet, although that one looks like it's really going to be up my alley too from a body horror standpoint. Shivers is one that's listed here. I do like my body horror for sure. I think that's really where practical effects come in, and as long as they use practical effects and not the crappy CGI that they've tended to use in more recent years, I think that body horror can be awesome. But man, the body horror, the practical effects in The Thing from 1982 is just through the roof. But yeah, The Fly with Jeff Goldblum, I really like in terms of just straight up body horror. Color Out of Space is my favorite Cage movie. Yeah. Now, I haven't seen a lot of his movies in like the horror genre yet. I just saw Renfield a few months ago, and as a horror comedy goes, I thought it was good. I like Nicolas Cage in that. I did not like him in the remake of The Wicker Man. That movie should have never been remade. But I have to see Color Out of Space. That's on my list too, believe it or not. And then he's also in what is it? Something in a Ghostland or something. Mandy. Yep, that's another one. Is it Something in a Ghostland? I thought he was in that I just saw today on my I think my queue for Shudder. So yeah, but I love Nicolas Cage. He's a great actor, I especially like him in these over the top sort of horror movie roles. But so yeah, I got a lot of watching to do. But yeah, body horror is great. Like I said, as long as it's got Prisoners of Ghostland. I think that's right. I think you're right on that. A couple that I crossed out because I think they kind of fit in other categories. They're like teen horror. Teen horror is kind of like slashers to me because like 80% of slashers basically involve teens. Although they do list like I Know What You Did Last Summer, but again, that's a slasher. The Faculty I put under sci-fi. Donnie Darko, I wouldn't really classify that as teen horror. I suppose you could. I don't know what I would classify Donnie Darko as. It's kind of a sci-fi movie, I would say. Psychological sci-fi, maybe. But teen horror, and then the other one I crossed out was erotic horror because I don't really know anything about that. Is that just porn, basically, where people are dressed up as vampires and stuff? I don't even know. Like women in prison films, I imagine, probably fit in there somewhere. Or those might be exploitation too. I don't know. But those are ones that I'm just not familiar at all with, so I really didn't really think I'd bring up. Do you have a favorite found footage movie, William? I think if I had to pick a favorite, well, I'd probably have to go with the Blair Witch Project because of what it did from a marketing standpoint. Softcore, yeah, for erotic horror. I suppose it would have to be soft porn, otherwise you basically are just watching porn. But yeah, found footage is one that I've kind of come around on, although I still have Paranormal Activity. I've only seen the first one. That one I enjoyed from a found footage standpoint. It worked pretty well for me. But like I said, the Blair Witch Project's always going to be out front when it comes to found footage. But I really do enjoy it's fucked up. Mortium. Yeah, I haven't heard of Mortem. I haven't heard of that one. Is it recent or has it been out for a while? I'd be interested in checking that out, especially if it's fucked up. What was I going to say? Oh, I was going to say one of the creepiest movies. It's old. Okay, I'll have to look that up. Thanks, though, for the suggestion. I think Hell House LLC, the first one. I know there's like 3, and I think 4 of them. Isn't there a 4th one coming out, or that did just come out in the last year or something? But the first Hell House LLC, that's a scary movie, man. Oh, it's not a suggestion. Okay. All right, you don't want to take credit for that, or blame, I guess, as it were. Um, but so yeah, I've come around on found footage a little bit. Hell House LLC, though, that's a really creepy good one. Um, just kind of going through these one more time here to make sure I cover everything. Um, Obviously, natural horror, The Birds, Hitchcock's The Birds from '63. I love that movie. Willard, um, Willard remake, Night of the Lepus. I've seen Bog. I've seen from '75. Of course, Jaws from '75, which is one of the greatest movies, period, in my opinion. Um, Orca, The Killer Whale. Yeah, there's a lot of like animal nature kind of gone amok movies out there. Also, Razorback is one that I just picked up from the '80s. Houses October Built is cool. Yep, I think I have those two on a two pack. They're the first one and the second one. Haven't watched them yet though. That's also on my list. Found footage wise, yeah, I'll definitely be interested then in checking those out. Well, we talked about that. Well, I mean, what can you say about slasher movies other than, like I said, '70s, '80s? Um, there's some good ones in the '90s and the 2000s, but it's a lot fewer and far between. Um, so slashers for the '80s slashers, I'm trying to collect all of them, and I don't know how many there are exactly because I'm not counting ones that are like really low budget. The ones that I can get a hold of, the ones that are still in print though, that are being sold, I think I probably have like 30, maybe 35, maybe more than that actually. Maniac's the best. Yeah, I would agree. I have Maniac. I've seen Maniac a couple times. That's Joe Spinell, chef's kiss as far as his performance in that. Um, Love Maniac. I like the Friday the 13th franchise. I don't know what my favorite camp slasher is in the '80s, whether it's Sleepaway Camp or The Burning. Or the original Friday the 13th, but I'm going to kind of take that out of it because that's a franchise unto itself. But um, as far as The Burning or Sleepaway Camp, they're both so good and they're kind of different, but kind of the same. Um, I think I actually like the camp setting in Sleepaway Camp better. Um, it just feels more like a camp in that movie. I think I might pick Sleepaway Camp actually if I had to choose between the two, but I really do love both of them. Um, yeah, there's a lot of great slashers that I can't wait to watch. Um, in fact, I'm going to be doing a series on the year 1980 in a few months here. It's going to be like a 3-month series because I'm going to be watching and reviewing a lot of movies from 1980, a lot of horror movies, and then giving you my top 10 at the end of that 3-month cycle. So just an FYI for any of you that are on this live stream here. Yeah, and then psychological horror, we talked about horror anthologies, gore, torture porn, adventure, creature exploitation, zombie, monster. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers all of them that I wanted to talk about. Unless you guys have anybody out there have any horror subgenres they want to bring up that I didn't mention, or that they love, or that they hate, or that they're hit or miss on. I'm going to take a drink while. The 47, been watching film since oh, okay, nice. Yeah, you just got a couple years on me. I'm 45, but I haven't been watching I haven't been watching horror movies since the 80s. I probably started in the late 80s a little bit, just with what was on TV and stuff, and really got into them in the 90s. In fact, I can remember going to the video store like probably 160 consecutive Friday nights back when they had video stores, rental video stores, and renting horror movies. That was the thing I did like 15, 20, 25 years ago. That's how I saw a lot of them when they're obviously and then before on TV, but they're always edited on TV, so you're not really getting the full effect. Um, but yeah, I really miss those video rental stores, man. I know they don't need them anymore because everything can be streamed and there's like 100 different streaming services, but it's not the same, bro. It's just not. I mean, young people today just don't realize what they're missing out on, going to a going to a Blockbuster or something and just seeing all the different titles spread across multiple aisles and reading the back of the movies and the excitement of bringing it home and watching it for the first time. Nothing like it. Nothing like it. It's kind of like Saturday morning cartoons, how the young folks don't know what that was like. And I kind of feel bad for them in a way, but yeah, I definitely spent some money at the old movie rental places back in like probably started in the mid 90s through like the around 2011, 2012 when they started to go out, I would say, and streaming services really popped up. So mom and pops were the best. Yeah. 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 The smaller, the better. I actually went to a place called Movie Gallery. That's where I lived by when I got my first house. It wasn't a Blockbuster. I mean, it was called Movie Gallery, which is very well. I guess that is kind of a chain too, but it was this one that I went to was a very small, intimate kind of place, and as opposed to having one that's like a grocery store, So you kind of know the people that would check you out and stuff, your movies and stuff, and some familiarity there. So yeah, I really miss them days. But anyway, I think I'm probably going to run this another 5 or 10 minutes and then call it a night. You used to manage a movie gallery? Oh, okay, awesome. Yeah, I actually applied to when I lost my full-time job for a short time there. I actually applied to it wasn't Movie Gallery at the time. It changed to Family Video, which there's still a couple of those around in where I live in the Midwest here. But I actually applied to be like I don't remember if it was part-time or full-time, but to work at a movie gallery, not necessarily be a manager, but I thought that would have been a pretty awesome job. It's definitely a Friday night tradition for me. I usually would get at least 2 to 3 new horror movies every Friday night and then watch at least 2 of them that night and then watch the third one Saturday night, because a lot of times, unless they were new releases where I was, you get them for at least a few days. I think it was like 2 or 3 days. But if they were new releases, of course, you only had them for 24 hours. But then you would just make sure to watch those first. That's how I did it. But yeah, as far as horror subgenres go, like I said, I didn't even touch on all of them. If we want to get even more specific into the weeds, I really love highway horror. In fact, I just watched an episode that'll be up on my channel for review of a Masters of Horror season 1 episode. The name is long. I forget. It's the first episode of the series that it's like highway horror. I love those settings that are at night on a dark highway where there's only like one car and you don't know what the hell's going to jump out at you, and you've got like a forest on each side of the road. And I think that's a great horror setting. So yeah, The Hitcher is classic. I was just thinking that I love The Hitcher from 1986. I know they did a remake and even a sequel of it, and I've never seen either of those. I heard the remake is kind of shit, actually. But the original one with Rutger Hauer and C. Thomas Howell, it's awesome. I just love it. I can't believe how badly Siskel and Ebert just beat the hell out of that movie when it came out. I don't really know what they were expecting or what they were looking for in their review, but they called it perverted. They called it, I don't know. I've never really cared much about what so-called professional movie reviewers thought. But yeah, Hauer's legend for sure. That one movie made him a horror icon, in my opinion. But yeah, I love The Hitcher. Highway horror. What's the other one from the early 80s with Jamie Lee Curtis? That's an 80s slasher. I don't know if it's under slash. Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I just love those settings. So yeah, highway horror. As I mentioned, I touched on briefly, like isolation horror. Claustrophobia is not a favorite thing of mine. So anytime anytime you get me into a movie where I'm feeling claustrophobic, like the two movies that come to mind right off the top of my head are The Descent, when they're spelunking down in those caves, and then As Above, So Below, when when that one guy gets stuck and those caves crumble on him. I have nightmares about that. I can't stand claustrophobia. So that's those are just a couple more specific, I would say, aspects of horror subgenres that I really go towards. Um, but yeah, with that being said, I think I'm probably going to wrap this up here in about 5 minutes. We don't have doesn't look like we got a whole lot of people, but that's okay. They can always watch this. This will be up on my channel. They can always watch this live stream after the fact. Um, and in the grand scheme of thing, I have under 400 subscribers, so I didn't expect to get 50 or 60 people on here. But hey, I'm glad that William's here. I'm glad that the other person that's on here, maybe that's me, I don't know. But anybody that's on here or checking it out, I'm glad you're here. Thank you, William. I appreciate it. I appreciate you being here and checking it out too. I'm glad that the volume worked today and that I wasn't mute. So we got the microphone taken care of. Now I just got to get a screen recorder. That's the next thing that's on the docket for my channel here. Maybe I'll have it by the time I do my next live stream, which will probably be in like the second Friday in March or something. But we'll see. We'll see. Money's tight. So, but yeah, with that being said, I hope everybody enjoyed this video talking about horror subgenres. Yeah, Halloween year round. Love the jack-o'-lanterns, love the pumpkins. That it really is. I'm not one of those. I mean, I love Halloween, and I certainly watch John Carpenter's Halloween, the original, and Trick or Treat every year on Halloween. But I mean, I'm watching Halloween films way before October ever gets here. You have to. There's so many of them, and I love to spread them out throughout the year. So best holiday ever. Let's be real about it. But yeah, thank you for watching. I hope everybody's doing well, and I look forward to the next one of these that I do here in early March. And yeah, as always, stay scared. Bye, everybody.